Guelph aspect to this. There's a couple of studies that kind of came out. I guess just to kind of ask the question, just because we're pretty hyper-local with Guelph today, why come to Guelph for this?
When the resistance tour began, it began with people just reaching out from across the country saying, we want to do something, we want to stand up. I have to say I was absolutely not surprised that Guelph was one of the first communities that said, we need to have the resistance here, we have to build a strong resistance to this rise of authoritarianism and threat of Trump, and also to stand up and speak for Canada. So it's a movement right now that is, I think, in the face of very dark times, we're lighting candles and coming together and saying we're not going to be intimidated.
What did you make of the turnout here tonight?
This is such an incredible place. The fact that we're in a beautiful church that looks after the homeless. To me, it's the spirit of Guelph. Packed house, people are proud, people are determined. This is the heart of Canada right here.
How many stops are you on this for this tour?
Oh God.
What a few.
I mean, it just started with a request to come to one town, and then they wanted me in Sudbury, and then, well, if you're in Sudbury, come to North Bay. Now we're going to small fishing villages in Prince Edward Island. We're going to Saskatchewan, and what I'm hearing across the country, it's the same thing everywhere. Canadians love this nation, and we're not going to be pushed around. And I'm seeing this incredible determination. You know, Canadians, like I always say, saw ourselves as likable slackers, but man, you mess with us, the gloves get dropped. So, you know, maybe we're a little part John Candy and his likable Canadian, sorry, it's okay. And we're also, we're like Bobby Clark. Don't come into the corners and mess with a Canadian. And so right now, I'm seeing that spirit, and it's amazing.
The one thing that I've really kind of picked up over this last couple of months is that Trump has been kind of maybe changing the narrative a little bit. It seems like every day there's something new that's coming out from him. As you've been going along in this on this trek, what are some of the things that you've learned, and what have you picked up and maybe learned from Canadians as you've been going along?
I think when Donald Trump, basically the first time he threatened us was Christmas Day. People were like, was he drinking? And then early January, the attacks came on really strong. And there were those who were saying, oh, it's Trump being Trump. And then people realized this is dead serious. And I think everybody was very frightened. We didn't know what this was going to be. And then we got mad. And now people don't really care what he says. They don't care what his threat is, 50% tariffs this week, or you're going to have to do that. Canadians are like, bring it on. You want to fight, we'll fight. Otherwise, get out of our face. And I've been really seeing this determination. There was a belief, I think, that Canadians would get tired, Canadians would lose focus. Well, the calls that I'm getting for resistance tours, the packed halls, everywhere I go, I see this spirit, the Canadian spirit. We're not bending until this guy's gone.
I feel like that's the overarching message you want to send people off on today, kind of thing.
It's really important for people to know that we've done something extraordinary in Canada. This boycott has had an enormous impact on American states. It's really undermined a number of the MAGA governors and senators when they realize they've just pissed away a major market that they had by threatening us. And the fact that it's not coming back, Canadians are done with this. Canadians are not going to put up with this. I'm really, really proud of how we stood up, but we need to keep standing, and we need to not give in to fighting with each other. We've got to stick together.
I think of some of the companies here in Guelph in particular, like people like Linamar, so a lot of the automotive companies here in town that you'll see a lot of these automobiles cross the border, it seems like, or 9 different times before an entire thing is built. What would be your message to some of these automakers and some of these companies here in Canada that are still reliant on American companies? And I think here in Guelph, 75% of what's going out the door is going straight to America.
What the workers, particularly in auto, steel, aluminum, need to know is that their leaders have to have their backs. We cannot give in to these trade threats. It's causing mayhem on the American side of the border. There's a lot more economic insecurity in the United States right now than Canada, but the front line definitely is auto. So I want to know that we can say to our auto workers, we'll have your backs. We will find other markets. We will create other products. If we have to go in and tell Honda, General Motors, whoever, your assembly lines aren't going to shut. We're going to start to retool, and we're going to do it for Canada. That's the message we need to send, because we are in a wartime economy, and we need to start acting like it's a wartime economy.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
Charlie,
Yeah.
do you feel the Canadian boycott of the States is actually working?
The boycott of the United States has had a devastating impact on key American sectors. Kentucky, for example, suddenly realized that their number one export of Kentucky bourbons was Canada, and they lost that. So then you start to see Kentucky governors calling Donald Trump and saying, hey, back off. When you see Alaska, total MAGA realizing, wow, BC's going to put the squeeze on us. They start putting pressure on. When we have 93% drop in American wines to Canada, which is the United States' biggest market, and we see $12.3 billion in lost travel, those are hundreds of thousands of jobs. I feel bad for those people, but listen, this is a state of economic war. You threaten us, we will push back. Americans know that the boycott is not breaking. We've had many governors come up and tell us, oh, we like you, come on, let's love each other. You want to love us? You deal with the convicted criminal in the White House and tell him to stop threatening our nation. Otherwise, we're not coming back. And I don't know a single Canadian who's going to break the boycott now.
Charlie, can you just tell us a little bit about your involvement with the Midas Touch?
What happened with me was I was speaking in Parliament about the rise of authoritarianism, the rise of fascism. Ben Messilah saw it. They had my entire speech in the House of Commons, and suddenly people from around the world started calling me, sending me messages. I've been invited on multiple times. It's fascinating that I get much more coverage right now in the United States for speaking up against Trump and fascism than I actually do in Canada. Midas Touch has played a really important role because they're calling it as it is. Ordinary Canadians are following a news network out of Los Angeles, a news network that's actually doing a really good job of speaking directly to Canadians. So I've been involved with Midas Touch. They have me on a lot of the time. Some say I'm the fourth Messiah's brother. I don't know. But it's a great network to be involved with because they're not afraid to call it for what's happening.
Finally, can you tell us a little bit about your book and where can people follow you on social media and your website, Charlie?
My latest book is Dangerous Memory, Coming of Age in the Decade of Greed. It really tells us how we ended up at this moment from the 1980s on, the decisions that put us into this dystopian time. To follow me, I tell people to follow Charlie Angus on Blue Sky. Blue Sky is the best network right now in terms of we don't have to deal with the bots and the hate. I'm on Facebook, but it's getting more and more of a toxic junk pit. But if you really want to follow, it's Charlie Angus, the Resistance Substack. Every day I'm putting out essays. Every day we have people from around the world engaging, and we're building a resistance network across Canada, across the United States, and we're picking up some really interesting people around the world. So Charlie Angus, the Resistance Substack.
Finally, what makes Canada such a great country?
You have to have traveled and driven across the country to see the enormity, the beauty. And the great thing about Canada is that wherever I've gone in this country, I've always felt like I was coming home, even if I'd never been there before. The sense of decency, the sense of tolerance, the sense of welcome that we have for each other. What's really important about Canadian patriotism that we've discovered is that we don't need to wave the flag, we don't need to be jingoistic, we don't need to beat our chest, we just have to be decent neighbors. And that makes us special in the world, and the world is watching Canada. And I can tell you, I hear it again and again from people around the world, they want to be like Canada right now.
Charlie, I want to say thank you so much for coming to the Royal City Mission Church tonight, and it was a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Guelph is the heart of the resistance.
Thank you so
Always will be.
much.
Thank you.